start sharing my screen right now. I know this is probably not the best thing to do in a presentation, but I'll be doing some live code. There are no slides really. Okay, let me just hide this. So here you go. I've created this sort of playground for us to experiment a little bit with live sessions today, because I feel there's just too little of content for this, but a lot of things that you can do. So live coding sounds better. And if you are curious about the source code for this, I put this on this repository. You can go on GitHub and look into my name, Lubin. You can call me Lubin, by the way. John Ferreira is my actual name, but I go for Lubin most of the time. And basically, this has some initial state we will be using to go through the live session things that I want to talk to you guys. So let's start with it. What is a live session? Think of it as a simple way for you to be sharing code between multiple live views without having to worry about making imports, aliases, running functions everywhere, and making some things messier. Live session will probably be your best friend when you need to do something like that. And the most common use case for now is probably auth, because if you run the PHX gen auth, you're gonna get live sessions installed in your project. We'll be looking into that later. But what I really want is to convince you that the way that live sessions intercept code is kind of amazing. It lets you build a lot of things. And all you have to know is basically these 4 functions. And to be honest, you don't, most of the time you probably won't even need the last one. So 3 of them are probably enough. And the way I want to tell you guys about this is let's just start making the most basically and probably useless live session ever created. So here's my playground. And this live view, I called it page live. And this page live is basically the counter live that you have probably already seen 1,000 times if you ever learn about with video content or saw the Phoenix docs. And all it does is incrementing the count. And if you refresh the page, it goes to 0. So let's go to our page live. And what I want to do right now is, let's say we want to log anytime a user joins this live view, and for some reason that's going to be useful for us, and we want to make that appear in multiple live views. All you have to do is you're gonna run the macro on mount, and you're gonna name the module where the function that's going to run will be available. So let's call it session playground web dot, let's name it log session. And then I'm gonna write this module, and let's go to my live folder right here. So I named it log session .ex. I'm gonna create this module really quick. So first of all, I want to show you the error, because errors in Elixir are just amazing and they tell you a lot about what's happening. So right now it's telling me the log session module must have an unmount function that takes 4 arguments. And as you can see, it already shows me what's needed for this module. So let's just build it. And I'm just gonna say def onMount. So we have a matching onMount on my live session module. And the first argument, the error itself is already telling me this is default. We're gonna see how to customize this in a few minutes. But for now, the interesting bit is the other arguments that you're gonna get from it are basically the same that you get from your regular mount. So you don't have to learn anything new for this bit. You're just gonna need to get the default as the first argument. You need to get the parents that we are not going to use, and the session that we're not going to use here, but the socket that's going to be useful. And you need to reply this with count and socket. And as you can see, there's already something different right here. You need to do the count rather than OK. If you're used to the mount callback, you're gonna think that this is the right way to go. But here's the idea. Live sessions and on-mount hooks, they intercept your live view, and they kind of go first, and you must say if you're gonna continue the cycle, the life cycle of your LiveView, or if you wanna stop. So in case I meant to do a live session that was some sort of preventing users from doing something they don't want, I can do a halt and I can do a redirect. If I forget the redirect, Phoenix will be very, very helpful here. It's going to say you made a halt, but you forgot to redirect, and that's amazing. But for now, we just want to log the fact that the user just came to this live view. So let's say user came to this live view. It's very useless, but we can use now the terminal to see that this is indeed being logged. Anytime the user is reaching this page, I'm logging this, and that might be useful for someone already. But the gist is, all you need to do is define unmount callback inside your LiveView module, your live session module, and get the params. What if you wanna assign something to socket? You can pretty much do everything you do on your default mount. If you do a assign right here, you can do a assign right there. So let's just assign something that's just so we can show from live session. Let me copy this right here, and let's call this hello world. So I'm gonna save it, and it's going to complain that I don't have the assign function. For that, I can use Phoenix component, and I will have this function right now, and it's going to work. So let's just show this assign right here. Okay, from live session, I'm showing reload world. So it's very powerful. You can do already what you can do already with the unmount hook. You can assign things. You can prepare the state for your live view. But what if you want to do something more complicated that actually gets things from other events? So right now we have a button that's incrementing the count, and it does that by using an event called inc. And what if I want to like log what events are happening on my live session, on my live view? I can do that by doing the next function or list, and that's called attach hook. And as you can see, it's not completing my code because I need to import Phoenix live view. Then I will be able to use the attach hook, and all it takes is 4 arguments. First, it's going to need the socket that we're going to pipe into. Second, we need the name for this hook, and it can be anything as long as it's an atom. So let's call it listen to events. Listen to events, and I need to tell which function we are going to intercept. So let's say I want to listen to handle event, and the function that's going to handle this, I'm just gonna call it handle event 3. And basically I need to define this function. I can even do it as a private function. In handle events, as you already know, get the event name, the parents, and the socket. So let's get any event name. And after the event name, parents that we don't need, and the socket. And now what I'm going to do, if I used to do handle events, you probably want to do no reply. And for now, let's just say no reply socket. But just like the unmount thing, we need to tell Phoenix, okay, go ahead and continue your event. So we're not going to do the reply. We're going to say count. So variable, oh, let me just underscore this. So whenever I'm running this, it's going to go for with the event. But if I say halt, what I'm telling my live view is I handle this event. You don't need to handle it anymore. So all of a sudden it stops working. So you're gonna think about this for a bit. Since we just want to log the event, we probably want to do a count. So event fired, and then we are gonna pass the event name variable that we are going to uncomment right now. So whenever I hit the increment function, it's going to say event fired. and I'm gonna let the socket continue doing its reductions using the count. So this right here is probably the most basic live session that you probably want to do on your application. And there are more things you can customize right here. So for example, I told you at the beginning that you needed to do default right here. What if you want to do some sort of arguments? You can pass arguments like this. Instead of showing just the module, you can do a tuple and pass the arguments. So let's call it hello Elixir. I'm gonna save it. And instead of getting default, I'm gonna receive a variable called hello name. And right here, the assign is going to use that variable. So instead of hello world, it's showing hello Elixir, or whatever you wanted to put right here, really, a string, a map, however you want to do. It's very useful that you can customize this. And just to wrap the basic knowledge of the live session, what if I want to do this in multiple live views? Do I need to go over all of them and just put amount, and just be bored by that? That's where the live session macro comes around. So I can go to my router. As you can see, it already bugged because there's no assign right here. And you can go find your live view. In my case, it's page live. You can create a live session, name it however you like it. I just called it simple, but it can be any atom, really. And on the amount parameter, you can just put a list of things that you want to run. And on my case, I'm just going to put the log session. And if I refresh my page, it's just going to work. And now both these live views, they actually use the same log session, live session that I have. Very complicated weird naming from my part, but that's the gist of how live session works. All you need to do is you can attach things from amount, and you can use attach hook to basically say LiveView, whenever you're gonna run a handle event, a handle iframe, a handle something, I want to do a function on my own. And if you saw my router, you're gonna see that I already have some other things. So let's go over the simplest one. I shamelessly stole from LiveBits, a good project for Phoenix for you to base on, the nav live session right here. And all it does is we get the current live view and the live action and goes through this function right here. And basically it maps the name of your live view into an atom. So I can go to my app.html.ex and use the assignment active nav to show this little thing right here. Whenever you go through mounts to live views, it's going to get the live view that you're currently in and just going to say, this is the atom for this live view. And the component that I built for the navigation is going to use that to show the current one. As you can see, it's quite simple. I just have nav items for notifications, this other thing that I'm just going to show you, the settings page, the logout page, the register page, and it's quite easy to do. If you're interested, you can go to the live bits and look into the nav.ex. It's pretty much the same thing. All you need to do is just get the live view and action and figure out what's the one that's currently in. And I use that for my template because if you think about it, my template is everywhere, but I don't want to just copy and paste code to do this. So live sessions, they solve it quite well. Another live session you can see from my router is if you go to your Phoenix project and run these commands, it's going to generate a base out system that you can base yourself from. And it generates 3 kinds of live sessions. And I can show you going to user auth that's generated from Phoenix. And it has these 3 on mount callbacks. And the first one is mount the current user. And it basically just puts an assigned current user and that's it. It doesn't do anything like preventing unauthorized users. And as you can see, I have some routes that I need to have the current user, but I don't need to block people that are not logged in. There's also the ensure authenticated that does basically an if that just checks if your user is authenticated as the name states. And these routes are the ones that we need to prevent people from going there if they're not logged in, like the user settings. You can't go there without having a user. And the last one are the routes that we don't want to show people who are already logged in. So basically the inverse from the other session that I just showed you. And mostly these are the login page and the reset password page. But all you need to know about this is if the person is logged in, it's going to say account on the ensure authenticated one. Otherwise, it's going to route the socket and redirect you to another place. I think my AirPods is dying, so just let me know if I just start if I'm not showing any sort of audio. But yeah, so far we talked about how you can do a basic live session, but so far I haven't shown you any useful thing that might be good to have in many places. So I'm gonna suggest you let's start with a more complicated system that's probably going to take more code from you, and that's the notifications. So I built a simple notifications LiveView. Let me show you. All it does is render a button, and this button sends a notification using broadcast from the pub sub, and the same LiveView also subscribe to the pub sub. So as you can see, it sends, and I already created the component. I can close my notifications by one or all of them, and this lives in my core components as notifications. It's quite simple. It's just a hide function with a JS push to make the handle event work. And as you can see, all the code that's from the notification system is inside just this LiveView. But if I go to another LiveView on the same system and send a notification, I don't see the notification at all. So that's a good use case for us to be doing with live sessions. So let's start baking it. So the first thing I want to do is, let's say on mount, I want to do session playground web dot notifications. And now I need to define this module. So let's go to my live folder and notifications.ex dev module do. So the first thing I need to do is do my onMount, and then I'm going to receive default because I don't care about arguments on this one. Params, session, and the last one is the socket. For now, let's just say count socket, and it's going to work. Yeah, it works, but it doesn't do anything variable. So let's come back to the notification line. First of all, I need to subscribe to notifications. So I need this function right here. I'm just gonna cut it and paste it right here. So whenever my LiveView appears for the first time, I just subscribe to the notification system. And even though I cut it, it's going to keep working, even though most of the functions are inside the LiveView, because the live session is just going to work before. Next, I can see that I am signing notifications, but if I'm going to do this in a lot of live views, I don't want to repeat this code. So let's just put it on my live session too. And as you can see, it's erroring because I need to use Phoenix component to get the assign function. And that works too now. My system is still working. Now I need to get the events to close the notifications. So I'm just gonna cut these ones and I'm gonna paste it right here. Now I need to attach the hook for it. So attach hook. And once more, I need to import Phoenix LiveView, import Phoenix LiveView. And then I'm gonna call it close notifications. That's just the name. And after that, I'm gonna say I wanna handle event, and I'm gonna use the handle event tree function. And since this is a function that's inside this module, I can even make it private. And once more, this right here is a no reply. It doesn't work in live session modules. What I need to do is a halt, because I want to handle the notification system right here and don't let it continue to any other place. But I'm going to show you a quite interesting error that's going to happen. So let me just save it. If I press the send test notification, as you can see, my live view is erroring. What's happening right now? Basically, since I didn't define a handle event for other events, the live view is going to stop handling right here. I need to manually say, please continue socket. Now, when I was pressing this button, I was doing an event called send test notification. So that's why it didn't go here, because I didn't explicitly say, please continue. So now it's going to work. And the close system still works just because we handle event right here. And if it's not a close event, I'm just going to go forward with it and let the live view handle that by itself. And last but not the least, we also have a handle info for when notifications first arrive. So what I'm gonna say is I'm gonna paste it, say it's a private function, and we're gonna say halt right here. And I'm gonna attach the hook for save notification. It's a handle info, and it takes 2 parameters. And the same thing happens here. I need to def the catch-all clause for this event socket do continue socket. So if it's a notification, I handle that myself and stop the reduction here. If it's another event, I'm just going to say, please continue. I don't care about it. Okay. Basic mistake right here. Nothing to worry about. Handle iframe is already defined. Oh, yeah, it's def private. Oh. Let's handle event 2. Oh, yeah, I forgot to. 3 errors on a row. Amazing. So let's just send test notification. Okay, now I can see that everything is working, but does it work for another live view? Let me refresh this page. So since I did the unmount right here, it's not going to work for another live view yet. But if I use the live session and put it on my router, so let me go the route and say live session. So on my live sessions, I'm going to use the Phoenix, the session playground web notification here. Oops, I think I did something wrong. Yeah, here, and there's another one right here. Let me save it. So I'm just gonna refresh my pages. If I send a notification from here, I'm gonna see it from there. So as you can see, it works. There's a little bit of homework that you can do. As you can see, clearing the notifications on one end doesn't clear on the other end. That can be easily solved by PubSub, but I'll leave that as an exercise for you guys. That concludes this part of how you can refactor your code into making it more reusable using live sessions. And the last thing I want to show you is just sort of warning before you just start to make a ton of live sessions. Do note that live sessions, you can navigate between live views inside the same live session just fine. So as you can see, when I'm on the mount A live view and the mount B, the Phoenix ID for my live socket doesn't change. And that happens because on my router, I can see that mount A and mount B live together under the same live session, but my mount C actually lives on another live session. So if I go there, I actually do a full reload on my redirect, So it disconnects the socket, it goes to another page, do a HTTP request, a GET, the socket is connected again. So navigating on the same live session is fast, and not call it fast, it's more performant than doing navigation between different live sessions. But I can see that Mount C and user settings are on the same live session. So I'm currently on Mount C, and this is my ID. So if I go to settings and come back, this is still my ID. So do keep in mind that that your live sessions matter for purposes. And as a bit of just trivia, I was inspecting the live socket code, and I found this socket private lifecycle mount. And as you can see, although this mount B and mount C are the mount live, they are the same LiveView. It differs from what's stored on the component on the live socket. So as you can see, this is Ensure authenticated, and this is mount current user. So since they have different rules about how we should handle sessions, that's why Phoenix just resorts to actually making a full page load. So enjoying the process of doing some sort of optimizations on your code with that. But other than that, I'm Logan, and I hope you really enjoy this talk. I'll be pushing this code so you can see the final version as soon as we wrap up here. And that's it. That's my talk.
Yeah, thank you very much for your talk. It was a good presentation about something that I find really essential lately when dealing with LiveView based applications. The introduction of live sessions and the possibility to mount stuff on them is probably one of the most important innovations in the library so far. So yeah, we are very happy to have heard about that, and now it's time for a Q&A session. So I think we don't have many questions, but nonetheless we will present them. So and these questions are so far more general than related to the talk itself, but I think you can try answering them anyway. So we have a question from Junaid about how to get an entry-level job in Elixir. You are muted, I think, or your AirPods have died. I still cannot hear you. I think we can hear you now.
That's weird. Does it work right now?
Right? Yeah, it's.
I just restarted it. I used the Erlang method to fix things. About the method, about the question, how to get an entry-level job in Elixir. So that's a really tricky one. I haven't seen as much junior level and maybe other level of other entry-level jobs too. From my experience, I've started with JavaScript and doing Node.js, doing more front-end JavaScript development. But I was aiming for an Elixir job, so I just kept looking into it. Eventually, I got a recommendation from a friend of mine, and everything worked out. So my trick, my tip for everyone would be do participate in communities, talk to everyone, talk to other developers, try to get a recommendation. And overall, there's just so many great things that you can get from participating in communities that I think is just nice to try that way.
Yeah, actually, if I can add anything to that, I think it's sometimes you have to take a different path and actually get a job, uh, get an entry-level job in a different technology, and then later on, if there is an opportunity to promote Elixir somewhere in your workplace, if you okay, if you have enough, let's say, power to suggest solutions to problems,
Exactly.
good, then it's good to promote it in your community, because as you said, there is actually a shortage of entry-level Elixir jobs. It's true. um, but at the same time, well, many companies have, for example, migrated from Ruby on Rails to Elixir, and I think this process is going to be continued in the coming years. So I guess this might be one of the cues that you can follow. Mm, yeah, I think that's it. Um, all right. I guess another question, which is touching on a similar subject. A question from Herbert Tamayo, and Herbert is saying that this is my first meetup and it was a blast. Happy to attend. I have zero experience with Elixir, but I have a beginner level with Ruby on Rails, and I have two questions. Do you have any recommendations of educational resources for learning Elixir and Phoenix? And the second one, does this meetup have a Discord server, a Slack channel, or something else where I can get involved? I guess I'm gonna answer the second question first, because no, we don't have any uh, Slack channel or Discord server yet, but in the meantime, I strongly recommend Elixir's Discord server, which I'm pasting into the chat. Uh, and we might think of actually creating a server for those meetups in the future. It's a quite nice idea. So um, thanks for this one, and I think I'm gonna pass it over to Joao for the first part of this question.
Adding to the second question too, I just found that there's the community section on the sidebar under the Elixir programming language site. So definitely take a look into that. You might find other interesting places to hang out about this. And as for the first question, you're a Ruby developer interested on Elixir. I'm actually the other way around. I started with Elixir and I came to understand Ruby better because of that. So if I'm going to suggest something, I would say take a peek into the getting started from the Elixir Lang site. It's quite useful to get started. Here's the learning. It talks about bugs, but I think this site yet already had some great documentation on what you need to understand to get started with Elixir, and that's a good place to go for. I also think that anyone who did any sort of framework like Rails, Adonis.js, and Laravel, you can pretty much just go to the Phoenix framework and start with things that are just to see how it goes. You have a lot of the generic things that you already know from other frameworks like routers, the controllers, models, and there are some things that you need to like shift the mindset for. But I think anyone that's already experienced with another framework from another language might be able to just get things done with Elixir quite fast. And so I would balance between going through the Elixir getting started side of things, maybe looking into Elixir in action if you're into reading books, and also doing some sort of hands-on work with a side project of yours.
I've met a lot of people who did not got into Elixir by reading things first. They just went to Elixir and just started doing things there, and it kind of worked. They got feedback from other teammates, and I think that's very useful and that's very simple enough to get started. Those are my tips for anyone who's interested into getting into Elixir.
Yeah, I think you have summarized the best ways to get into Elixir quite well. I guess well, I guess one important thing that I have also mentioned in the chat today is building up a portfolio of repositories and apps deployed for example, to Fly.io, which is probably the best way to showcase your abilities and prove yourself as someone who's not only starting learning but is actually building meaningful stuff already. So I guess, well, people who can boast a a portfolio of applications are much more likely to land a entry level job um, and get promoted if their development is consistent and you know um, and they produce good results in the first few months of their work. All right, let's see if there are any more questions about Elixir or about the subject of this presentation in the chat. Uh, I think we can. Oh, there are several well good points in the chat of, about the questions that were asked so far. So we really appreciate the discussion that is going on. Many of you are pointing out that it's a good idea to post on blogs. So just like just like the thing that we suggested at the beginning of the meetup, we can accept. We also accept guest posters on Curiosum blog. So we encourage you to do that. And there is a mention from Robson about the awesome Elixir repository on GitHub, which is basically almost always the first place I look in when trying to find an existing solution to a common problem that's out there. So that's also highly recommended. All right, I guess I can see that there are no more questions about the subject of this presentation. So, guys, to ask João questions via email, or just catch him somewhere on the internet if you have questions about the presentation. And I guess otherwise, that's it for today. So thank you, João, for this great talk. I think it was a really good one, presenting a really hot topic, so to speak, because LiveView's future is really well, LiveView has a really good future ahead. So thanks again, and thank you everyone for participating in the meetup.